Do this. All right. Okay. Thanks. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So thanks so much for coming on to chat about the absolute value of infinity on its side of dissipation. Um, I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of the materials we sent you, but um,
I did. What an amazing project.
thanks. Thanks. Yeah, and I realized I'm sending it to you, but Jason, do you remember that those senseless books that Koze Kosmika brought with them had a reference to Joseph Wright of Derby in it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's right. We were
Yeah.
talking. Yes, we were.
So
Oh, we went down a nice, like, medium-sized rabbit hole with that. That's great.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just now making that link. Okay.
Right, yeah, no, that's right.
Ah,
Yeah. So, I don't know. We could even. I would be interested. I did want to ask you, Lizzie, in person. Was there a show at the Uffizi? Do you know this? They said they saw something at the Uffizi like a few years ago. Does that ring a bell for you?
I think there was a show about light more generally, and
Oh,
they
okay.
loaned it to that. I think that's right.
Okay,
I
so
may be mistaken.
yeah, no, they had. So, do you know the provenance of this? They had a quote that they were attributing to him about butterfly dying because of the mercury. Does this ring any bells? Do you know this quote? No, it's okay.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
You have it up.
I have the book right here.
I was gonna say I go grab it because it was such a beautiful quote.
Yeah, the quote was the Florentine academics wondered whether the butterfly died due to the effect of the void or due to its having previously been immersed in mercury. Does that?
no. What are they referring to the cockatiel in the air pump?
Hmm,
What butterfly?
I know. Well, this was actually.
Is it a translation error?
That's a good question.
They're pretty
Yeah,
fluent in English.
Yeah.
they are. Ooh, sorry. They said it was something that was written on a. Are you remembering this, Jason? Written on a label, I think, in the show, and it was attributed to Joseph Wright of Derby. But
Hmm.
again, I'm not. Yeah. What's the cockatiel and the air pump?
Well, one of his better known paintings is this enormous life-size immersive night scene of a group of figures standing around an at-home science demonstration of the need for oxygen to support life. So it's almost everyone in a family, except there are no mature women in the scene, which is revealing what like our capacity for understanding ends at a certain age. And at the very center of the scene is a pet bird, a very delicate, white, beautiful pet bird. And the life is just fluttering out of it. And the little girl whose pet it is looks upset. And the itinerant lecturer is about to pull the stopcock and let oxygen flow back into the chamber, and the bird will come to life. And it will be a very dramatic scene.
Oh, wow.
That's
And there
wow.
are other pieces of sort of discarded, well, not currently in use scientific apparatus that are part of the painting depicted in shadows. But I'm not remembering anything with mercury.
Interesting. Wow. That is a very, hearing about that painting, I just feel like it connects to Miami in so many ways. It's kind of
Well,
extraordinary.
and I think even
Back in, let the air back in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that child, Jason. You're finally free. You're free. You're finally free.
when I think even when we first brought this up, and she was like, "Oh, I believe it was a show about light," and they lent. I'm like, "Oh, perfect! Like everything is
Right.
completely timed
Exactly.
immediately." Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, in any way it works. Incorrect translation, complete fabrication.
All lenses are appropriate.
But the reason it's so weird that I don't know this is because I'm actually the person who transcribed and published all of the extant writings by the artist
Oh
in a
wow.
book length article. So I'm just I thought it would ring a bell. I'll go back and check.
Well, we should, like, I love that this is going to send us on some
Yeah.
expeditions from this point on to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that is super grand. That is a super grand what output, or that's not the real word I want.
I know, but I'll go
Yeah.
check because it was too expensive to index the article fully. So people who have questions have to write to me, and I go back to like a very old version of Microsoft Word to find my original transcriptions and look things up. That's the easiest way to get an answer.
Wow. Oh, this is awesome. Wow.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this is so
But
good.
we did an index of proper names, but it was too time consuming for me to do all the rest myself. And academic journals don't have any money. So
Yeah, no, this is very, oh, I'm sorry, but this is very satisfying. Now it's making me, I feel like I should write the request out, and like
Mhm.
mimeograph it and then send it to you just to further.
I like it.
So
Or you could write it in the style of 18th century letters included in this article with all of the wonderful 18th century flourishes. It's just so great. Everybody signs your most obedient and humble servant, but because they're actually people of great efficiency, they abbreviate all of those words, which really undermines the impact of the humility, right? Like, I'm your most obedient and humble servant, but I don't have time to write that out because I'm really busy. So I'm your most humble
yeah, right.
served.
LOL.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
totally. That's great. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I like that too. This is good material.
Yeah, I think great fodder here. These perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of the letters begin by thanking someone, saying, I am in receipt of your letter of the 15th instant, which would be the 15th of the month. But I love that.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like it's fast as a text message,
Yeah, it
Right.
really does.
Right. Maybe this could be something that we carry with us to the Sicily show.
Yeah, actually, right.
Go uncover some. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice. Yeah, so Lizzie, the crew from Milan is organizing a festival in Sicily for next year called Volcano. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
They've
You're
actually,
Joseph Wright.
yeah,
Yay!
I know. That's what I just. That's so good. So
So good.
maybe he is going to be our organizing principal for this. They were trying to do this before the pandemic, and then it came to a screeching halt, and now it's actually looks like it's almost officially on the books totally for next year.
Great.
It's really exciting. So we all might be going there in October for a site visit, and then the actual festival is in May or something like that.
Oh, that's exciting. I'll go back and look, but I'm trying to remember. Joseph Wright had intentions. He made Vesuvius a kind of specialty, almost like a genre painting that he could churn out. He could kind of crank them out for cash at the end of his life. But there is a record in his manuscript account books of his having painted another contemporary volcanic eruption, and I think that one may have been in Sicily. So I'll go back and check.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow.
the painting isn't known, but it could be imaginatively reconstructed, for example.
oh yeah, and this is really good because we last summer, as kind of preparation for the project that we did in Bog Creek, and then also connecting up with Kose Kosmika as for this Freesby song exchange, we all read Mount Analog, and then Jason's son made this amazing volcano, that volcano
nice.
model that Jason shot some equally amazing video of.
Oh, that's pretty great.
Yeah, did he use it seemed like I wanted to think that he used raspberry jam in that, but I'm sure that's not what what did he use?
We decided so it was just the vinegar and baking soda first, and he was very unimpressed by the equivalence to lava that he was expecting. So we mixed up some food coloring
Nice.
and a little cornstarch
That
and
okay.
it
Oh,
really did. It became like jelly goo. It was pretty,
That's great.
but it would have that effervescent like pop that like it was like a bubble of jelly, and then it would just let these effervescents go. It was really cool.
That's great.
A nice surprise.
yeah, it was kind of yeah. So yeah, this is good. So I think we flexed our muscles in imaginative volcano making. Now we can take it further to actualize.
Yeah. Well, that was a part of 18th century garden design. It was not one that took off. It wasn't like, your average folly, but it turns up in some of the how to make a picturesque landscape garden books.
No, wait, just after the Hermit? Like what?
So yeah. So this is
Really?
like a thing you could do, and you could, like this. The really great ones were in the courts of Europe, and Goethe was a consultant on
Oh, no way.
one of the best ones, which was really, it is a very beautiful fake volcano with a replica of the little viewing pavilion that was actually in Naples because Vesuvius was smoking away and having minor eruptions all during the 18th century. So it was kind of like a thing you would go see for fun. And so it was, and it's recently been restored. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Oh, it is.
Wow.
Oh.
And it had, so inside, the mountain was fake, but it's in the middle of an artificial island, so it looks really good. And the nighttime displays, they should have used the cornstarch. They missed that, but they did something with water that would go over it, and then the portholes were colored red, and it was illuminated from within. So when the water went over it, it looked like it was an erupting volcano. And then they would do things with fireworks displays.
Wow, with Lily.
It was so darned exciting. Dogs can't even stand to imagine it.
Wow, that is
Picking up on the excitement for sure. It's
Exactly. So, and then there were other smaller volcanoes, and then it does turn up in these collective landscape gardening books. So some people would make them that would be like 8 feet.
Wow.
It's like a little baby volcano.
It also
Do you know if Goethe wrote anything on those? If there's any published work of his that references
I
any
think
of that?
there must be, yeah.
I'll look it up. Okay.
And
great.
he made drawings. I'll find some of that
Oh, really?
Okay.
Oh, nice.
info. I visited the site, and it's very beautiful.
Where is that?
It's not far from Potsdam.
Oh,
So
wow.
I can't believe I'm drawing a complete blank on the name. The prince who has one of those double barrel, hyphenated 2 surnames, he actually traveled through Western Europe and visited the UK, visited scenes of industry, but was really fascinated with the picturesque garden movement. And came back, and he built a Rousseau incel, like the island where Rousseau is buried with the poplars. And just a minute, I'm gonna rescue some office material.
I'm sorry. That is pretty.
I guess you can have the envelope. That's all right.
I'm sorry, but that was a great look. That's totally like, and then she swivels around to deal with her office assistant, who is currently holding. Wait, so a miniature island. It had a miniature.
So it has all of these amazing follies. And one of them is a replica of the island where the philosopher Rousseau was buried, which turns up, once you see his tomb, you'll recognize it all over the place in the late 18th and 19th centuries. It turns up in like tall fabrics and in prints, and it becomes a decorative motif. You can collect porcelain with it on it. And then a lot of fashionable people made a replica of his tomb in there, because it is actually, it's great looking. If I had an estate, I would so absolutely have a Rousseau island. I mean, without a doubt, yeah.
That is great.
It looks really great. So that's all part of this area with the really wonderful fake volcano. That's probably the best that was ever made.
Nice. Oh, that's excellent.
But the other thing that I'm thinking might possibly connect with your work would be to consider Emma Hamilton and her performances, because those were happening in the villa with the views of Vesuvius. And so it was all sort of I'm imagining that in the minds of the people who went to those parties, right? It's kind of a continuum of spectacle. It's a completely immersive experience. So you could see the eruption by looking out the balcony or by looking at the mirrors that were, no, you cannot have my papers. Looking at the mirrors that lined the room.
Oh, that's great. There were mirrors to reflect.
Or you could see Emma Hamilton perform these kind of amazing pantomimes in this box that was a little bit, stop it, like a Grecian urn.
Wait, a box that was a little bit like a Grecian urn?
It was kind of intended to set off her very elegant silhouette. So she would pose in these characters, and it became a comprehensive performance that some printmakers and artists sketched.
Oh,
But
wow.
she was really remarkable. It was like a one-woman show without speech.
Wow.
And she used an antique shawl, and somehow she captured all of these characters. Lily, you need to stop.
With only the
You have to pay
shawl.
attention to the people.
Oh, poor Lily. It's okay.
Sorry, this is her usual outside time.
Yeah,
so.
no, we appreciate
She's a little resentful. Sorry.
yeah, no, Lily, it's all on us.
Oh,
On us.
she looks grown up, but she's really a puppy.
No.
I got one of those behind me right now as well.
Oh, makes me feel better.
Yeah. So I'm angled up.
Yeah, that's why we're looking at your ceiling. That's good.
So Emma Hamilton's attitudes could be a really fun thing to look into.
Yeah, that's a good. Yep. No, that's a great. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. Wow, nice. Excellent.
Does anybody other than me remember the great Brady Bunch episode with the volcano?
No, what happened?
There's a volcano. It splatters Marcia and all her friends. But
Wow.
as a child,
In California?
yeah, that was
Excuse me.
like
Excuse me. No.
work that in as well.
Right, Emma Hamilton,
That's my first
Goethe,
volcano exposure.
and the Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
I see it's all coming.
Wow. I love it.
Joseph.
Marcia.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Well, Sicily sounds great.
Yeah, I think no, I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been, and it was so useful to do the site visit for Miami. And so I'm interested to see what comes out of visiting Sicily in the fall. Because
When they have an active volcano down there
That's pretty great.
that we can ferry over to, she said.
Yeah.
wow, yeah, see right there. Yeah, done. I guess we just need the hard hats and we're good.
Well,
Yeah.
minor lights.
Yeah, minor lights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cornstarch and red food coloring.
Exactly. Just to enhance it in case it's not quite good enough.
You just never know when it's going to be the appropriate response to the question you didn't even know was going to be asked.
right.
Exactly.
Just where's the light going right now?
Right here. Got just the thing for it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's something about that that idea of the different planes. Like I'm imagining the Emma Hamilton thing, and I love the fact that mirrors were involved in that too. But all of the distances and the varying distances between things, and the way that does or doesn't determine the sort of like presence of something in what is understood as the first plane is curious to me. Do you know what I mean? Like
It makes me think a lot about the recordings we made, the vinyl recordings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
tell
That's
me
from this.
how are the recordings sounding? Are you layering them, all the sounds one on top of another?
Yeah, Jason, did you want to?
I mean, I kind of wish, it felt like this almost like Rat Bastard was this alchemist kind of just outside of our performance space who was recording and then transmuting and then creating this new platter that the way it stayed with me is it felt like it was recording the shadow of our sounds.
Yeah,
Wow.
nice. Yeah.
It you on the playback you could put yourself back in a moment that was recording, but it was in no way the experience you had in that moment, yet there was some sensibility that brought you back to this chronological. It was super bizarre.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
was,
Yeah.
and I think it came from the rudimentary aspect of his lathe, but it really created this just magical response.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think pretty quickly the idea that this was sound reproduction fell to the wayside. He was there to produce new sounds with the sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Which, I mean, so that was like our third recording, recording to vinyl or um, project. Like we'd done two in North Carolina with with American Vinyl Company, and in that instance, it's true that's like producing a new sound too, but more because all channels are coming in equally, and if you're at one channel, you don't really know what that sounds like until you hear the whole thing. But it's recording live, all channels like being given
Wow.
equal weight, and so that was like one way of
Yeah.
producing new sound. But then with Rat Bastard, yeah, there was this material um, thing going on with the actual lathe that made it
Wow.
a whole new, literally,
yeah,
landscape of sound. Um, so it's really, really interesting. And those moments that you were referring to, Jason, where you were like, "Oh yeah, I think I was there for that." Well, wait, was I? And so
Right.
it's this really fascinating way that it destabilized your sense of what the past had been. I was really curious. Kind of made
Yeah,
it porous.
I wrote a few times and just kind of thinking about that it was, it was definitely felt as though it was touching some sort of subconscious record that I was keeping, but like always had that lag or that there was a gap between the conscious recall, but it sat
Wow.
somewhere in this like subconscious recording or unconscious recording, so that
Yeah.
there became this like instinctual gut knowing of it that you like felt in your bones, but you could never create, or you couldn't clearly create the reproduction, that mental map that we typically do of any experience we have. It was much more somatic almost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Super
beautiful.
interesting. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't know, this past year I came across an article about, and I can't remember the inventor's name, but the early 19th century, first sound recordings, the ones that were through smoke that
Mm.
never were listened to. Yeah, and they're
Wow.
really early, like they predate Edison
yeah,
by
yeah.
like a long time. Uh, but they could never be listened to because there was no way to like play them back.
And in fact, the person who made the recordings, or the people, recognized that there was no way to play them back.
Yeah, which is really kind of
But
beautiful.
they believed that there was somehow sound was encoded, and maybe
Mm.
someday somebody would figure out a way to play them back, and somebody did eventually.
Yeah, yeah, which were these physicists who had were perfecting this like taking photographs. Was this working at CERN? I think this was.
Yeah,
I think
it might
this
have
comes
been.
back to CERN, Jason. I think it was at CERN that these physicists were they had perfected this way of shooting. Yeah, it had it all. Actually, we got to tell Lizzie about that. Amazing. thing. This way of shooting photographs, they were trying to figure out a way to decipher things hitting what's the word I'm looking for? But it's like if electrons are hitting some kind of like recorder. Anyway, being able to, something about being able to shoot photographs with multiple cameras and then play all of them and then turn those into a sound file. Like somehow this all
Wow.
like comes into play and gets applied to these smoke recording, these smoke trails, and so they actually generated this incredible sound file like from
Wow.
by playing the photographs, which also to me just seems so apt to our work. Like there's this constant like mixing up of like what the sort of conventional intention or understood medium is, right? Like, well, the
Yeah.
camera's for, images, but it's
Mhm.
for sound here, and I really love that like mingling all together. Uh, but that does Lizzie, okay,
Yeah.
you got to send Lizzie the link to that. So Lizzie, you know what CERN is? That crazy, what's it stand for? Like, uh,
It's
The Electron Collider.
yeah,
Oh, I don't know it. No.
oh really?
yeah.
In Switzerland, more or less, and they
Giant circle underground where they just
shoot particles very fast,
Yeah.
smash them into other particles, and make more particles, and try to figure out what those new particles are. So
So it's
a
this,
collider.
it's a collider, and when they opened it, so Jason hooked us up with this on this trip, and so you got to send the link because they had this opening ceremony that was like I have no idea where it came from. It had these
Wow.
like mythical dance sequences.
mystery school, like esoteric.
Whoa.
Yeah,
And
it
I
was
mean, it went on for hours, and
hours of
have
like
like these just barons of industry, dressed to the nines in these bleachers while this
this
like
like mad.
proto humanity play like this.
Yeah,
That's
It was
amazing.
fascinating.
is so fascinating. I mean, they had, you know, yeah, they had monsters, they had lightning, they had. I mean, it is completely. It's awesome. Yeah, it's just so great
Wow.
to know that.
Sounds great.
Yeah, like that's what they thought was needed in order to open up this. Yeah,
Totally. When I love the balance of it, the ultimate and reductionism and the scientific method meets like the ultimate in
yeah, like Cirque du
human
Soleil.
consciousness and
Yeah,
mythology and imaginal like myth making and
Wow.
like it's what a weird paradox. Like
yeah, totally psychedelic, like crazy, awesome.
Great.
So good. And this does actually all connect, I guess, to this idea that like it's really hard to record something. The way that you
Yeah.
think, or to like record it in a way that like somehow, yeah, or it's really hard to record something in a way that uh, makes it seem like what it was when you were there. And
Mhm.
Well,
um,
which
which,
really is not surprising,
yeah,
right?
no,
I
it's
mean,
not
it's
surprising, but
sort of
yeah, that's
it's
true.
just funny how many people think it's possible, and how many people think it happens until they realize, wait, it didn't really happen. But,
Right, right. Yeah, and then actually that I like this generative recording so much more because just like keep opening up the space,
Yeah.
in what you understand was there, and that's really kind of marvelous.
It's
So,
wonderful. Almost all recording ends up being reductive, doesn't it? I mean,
right.
it just
Yeah.
narrows down
right.
what you are documenting necessarily.
Yeah, right.
The way,
It's like
I don't know, a framed photograph, that's your point of reference. And pretty soon it's the photograph and not the moment or the person or the occasion that is in your memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
supposedly that's even what happens with your own memories. Like memories are really sort of duplications of duplications of duplications.
Yeah.
Which become they say that the memories we hold dearest to our self-understanding are the ones that are the absolute most most obscured, most differentiated from the actual, accounting of what happened in that moment. Like the more times we create that facsimile, the more disruption, the more, projection goes on top of it. So they say like the truest memories are the ones that you didn't recall, but typically are like involved in a scent or something that
Oh, yeah.
stirs up this like black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Those don't. Yeah, that is fascinating.
I love that. And these notions that we project of ourselves are the most untrue stories we carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe inaccurate would be a better word.
Yeah. Right. They might be true, but they're not accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah.
But maybe that's good. Maybe it's like the body reimagining itself by making a new cell every day. Slowly.
Well, and I think it's the
replacing.
inverse of that reduction, right? Instead of coming down to one point, it kind of meets and then paradoxes back out into kind of like a light separation where it's just like, oh no, possibility exists here. It's not about shading down to some first notion, but like to the imagination.
Well, and if you want to go back to the physics guys, which I wouldn't have done if you hadn't brought up CERN, but that's another principle where it's you can't observe anything without changing it, right? That's my favorite principles.
Yeah.
Right? And it seems like you can apply that to memory.
Yeah, right.
Totally.
Very true.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I'm trying to think about how that conception jibes or disagrees with historical conceptions of ideals that art would strive for. From Plato's cave to sort of, I don't know, the age of academic art in the late 18th, early 19th century, as if there were an ideal that was better than the lived experience, but your only way to grasp it would be to look at a lot of lived examples,
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is interesting.
What would those thinkers have made of this idea of like the photocopy of the photocopy of the photocopy of the photocopy?
Right.
It's actually different than idealism, but yet there's a kind of essentialism there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Well, getting back to something you said earlier, Abby, about no one expects, they think of a camera and they don't think of that its potential for sound. You're reminding me of one of my favorite physically constructed but mostly imagined 18th century devices, the ocular harpsichord. Which was a way of playing with light, So the concept was that it was all different pieces of stained glass and you'd play the keyboard and rather than sound, you would see light.
Oh, that's lovely.
Well, that's kind of what the three-dimensional glass pieces are.
Like, we've kind of been, I guess now we know our,
what is that?
This light.
Well,
what's the term, the dysmorphia, when you experience your like sensorium experience, like you taste colors?
Synesthesia, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, that is. Yeah. Wait, who worked on the harpsichord?
I think it was someone called Bernard Castel, but it turns up in the English-speaking world in the Botanic Garden, Erasmus Darwin's horrendously fabulous epic poem about the lives of the plants.
That's a perfect.
The loves of and lives of the plants.
Loves and lives.
It's like Bridgerton for botanists. By Charles Darwin's grandfather.
That's very good. Yes, I didn't know about that. Nice. I'll have to look at. Yeah, that's good.
And it's in the encyclopedia, but I'm not really good on French history, so I know like
Okay.
the weird
Right. Where it
British
then traveled.
tangential
Right.
references to it.
Yeah, that's satisfying. Wow, nice. Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Sure, I can get that.
Mhm.
I've been thinking about spaces for a listening session at the Frick.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're this interesting museum. We're almost all of a city block, about 6 acres, with a historic house, an art museum, a transportation museum, an education center, a visitor center, a cafe, various office and functional buildings, and a historic greenhouse.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
And the greenhouse I just thought had interesting
Oh.
potential. It's
That
a
is
resident
really nice. Yeah.
um, things are growing and happening there all the time. It's, I think, not exactly as it was in Henry Clay Frick's lifetime. I think was reduced in size, but it was designed by Alden and Harlow, and it's filled with plants.
Wow. That would be a great place for a listening party.
So it might be kind of wonderful. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like a place that has its own climate that may or
Yeah.
may not line up with what's outside is really nice too, you know? Like,
And it's
Yeah.
it's all glass lenses. You know, back in the
Uh,
day, they would whitewash the glass to protect the plants in the most intense heat of the sun. And it hasn't aged that well. And we have a restoration of the building that will happen at some point, but it creates these interesting milky effects on some of the panes. And
nice. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds ideal.
Yeah.
Super dreamy. Yeah.
Yeah, like, hey, orchids, listen to this.
exactly. And then when you first walk in, there are gigantic Victorian plants that have to be very, very old. And I love the idea that they've been around the bend and heard a few things.
Totally.
Do you have any idea how old the oldest plant is?
No, but I can ask around.
Yeah.
I mean, if they built the greenhouse in the 1880s, could be quite old.
Wow.
And there's a mushroom cellar.
Oh,
What? There is?
That's
Yes, and
unbelievable.
I didn't even know there was a mushroom cellar until earlier this year.
oh my
And
goodness. Wow.
I haven't seen it yet because
I'm a
we had to
total
do some repairs
mycophile.
to the door. Yeah.
Wait,
wow.
did you go? You haven't seen it yet.
How did it come up? Did somebody decide, I think it's finally time to tell the director about the mushroom? Or was it just happenstance?
I found out because we have a wonderful docent named Charles Altman, who was he taught drama at a wonderful local high school here. He was Prince Tuesday on Mr. Rogers.
Oh,
Oh, really?
For years.
Oh,
Just
wow.
a lovely guy, knows absolutely everyone, and has been a docent, I think, since the museum opened.
Oh, wow.
wow.
And just is a curious person who learns a lot of things and remembers them. So he mentioned it when we had lunch.
Nice.
I think other people maybe thought a murky, dark cellar wouldn't be of particular interest to the new director, but
Oh,
back.
contraire.
I can't wait.
Oh, that's very
Wow.
good. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's extraordinary.
That is incredible.
It could be
Do you
kind
know
of-
if they are
yeah.
still growing mushrooms in there?
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, intentionally or not, it's damp.
Yeah, totally. Like what mycelial life has taken over down there?
Yeah, really.
Exactly.
Oh boy, this is good. Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Actually, that's another great example of imperfect reproduction, right? the
Yeah.
mutations over the years and the change in a species.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah, when should we do this, Lizzie? This is so good.
When would work for you? We should definitely do it.
Yeah. Maybe fall is a good time. What do you think, Jason? We don't have to exactly decide right now, but it
Yeah,
is
fall
something to
sounds
think
great.
about. I guess
I mean,
because
anytime that works well for you, we're pretty good about
that's
shifting
true.
life around for whatever needs to happen and make the 181 like
appear.
realize something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a yeah, I like especially with that I guess I like fall in particular because of the idea that idea of like the greenhouse as almost this like spaceship with this climate inside that's kind
Yeah,
of proceeding through the seasons, and
How
fall is such a poetic, intense like transition time.
that sounds
And then I
great. I
just
love it.
imagine the underbelly of that spaceship growing mushrooms in the dark,
Yeah.
and like what what kind of filters could possibly send a version of that sound down to
Wow.
the depths
Yeah.
Yeah.
that would be appropriate for the beings lying in wait for the performance down there.
That would be really nice. Yeah.
We need to meet this Charles Altman. I think he might need to be our.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, he has to be part of this. He would
Yeah,
be a
Awesome.
wonderful addition. Yeah.
completely. Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, that's really great. Wow. Wow.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, fall would be perfect.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, Brandon will be excited to hear about this too. I mean, he's just so excited about the idea of coming back to Pittsburgh, and I guess he always, when he lived there, and this is prior to you being there, apparently he was always peppering the frick with proposals for things that, for some weird reason, they never would get back to him on. But
Uh,
he, because I guess you have that wonderful auditorium, which
yeah.
was underutilized, at least from what he could tell, and he was just like, "Oh my gosh, dear Frick, what about this idea?"
Yeah.
So the greenhouse is like, that's incredible.
But the auditorium is also great. He's so right. Yeah.
Is it nice? Yeah. No, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. I
The
think
green
like,
sounds so incredible.
yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Jason, but I mean, we were like Miami and that Florida, the lush vegetation and
So verdant everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
gosh, I don't. I mean, I know I knew about it, but I just wasn't expecting how much it like comes at you. And
Well, and how diverse it was. It was you would turn a corner and to go from a micro niche to another, and you're just like, whoa!
yeah,
Literally turn a city block after nothing but trash, and the most beautiful orchid is like growing out of the
right,
elbow
yeah,
of a tree, and you're just like,
yeah,
Wow.
And where the Italians were staying, you could see manatees, and you saw them all the time. They're endangered species, and we saw them all the
Yeah.
time. And then if you looked up from the manatee, you saw the Texaco station.
yeah.
You know,
Crazy. And the
and
cop
Route
cars
1.
going by, and
and the people squealing out, just
Wow.
and like
it was.
yeah, and meanwhile all these birds are coming down, and the
Yeah.
manatee are there, and lizards, and I mean, I mean, I actually have to say, bizarrely, when we first landed, when we did the site visit, and I guess we landed at night, but when I first got a sense of the city, I just was like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. We are killing everything.
Well, that's still true.
Yeah.
I know, but then when you saw how close everything, I felt like, you know what? If the humans stop paying attention for like 5 seconds, it's taking over. Thank God.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like it's so much what we were doing with the flashlights in that gallery space, right? Like you turn on the lights and it's just a dumpster fire what we created. But you turn out the lights and you give each individual a beam that allows
Yeah.
only a portion of information that's available that they have to stitch together their own narrative, and all of a sudden it's magical and full of potential instead of that reductive, it bounces back out. Like,
Yeah, that's a really good.
Yeah.
That's a really
Well,
good point. Yeah.
I don't know if it was mentioned to you, Lizzie, but guests to
Oh,
our
right.
room, the lights were off in the room, but they had headlamps, so they had to explore the whole installation with headlamps, and
Great.
which really changed how it felt.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting to see. It changed how they felt in a way that I was expecting it to change how the space felt, but I wasn't expecting how much people seemed to get affected by the idea of putting on a headlamp and being sort of put in charge of what they could look at in that way. Which there was this one day where
you have to move your body too, right? So
Yeah.
that's really different because we're so accustomed to moving nothing but like one or two fingers, or maybe just a fingertip, you know?
Yeah.
It was also interesting that if you walk into a room, it seems, and you see all this stuff that might be hard to put together in your mind, you kind of shut down a little bit. But if you walk into a room and your headlight shines on, whatever, a model of a palm tree stuck in the top of a microphone stand, and that's all you've got, then that's a much easier entrance for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's how it struck me.
Well, and it's there's just so much agency, like I imagine like standing, that we didn't do this, but like I actually wrote about this, how wonderful it would have been if we stood there with those as people came in and you were just like, here is your freedom. Here is your freedom. Here is your freedom.
Yeah.
Enjoy your version of it's like in that institutional setting, what's on the floor, what is the object, like we have a gaze that we've been encultured to all follow a certain movement with, and with that it just took all those expectations, all the institutional overlay kind of away, and you said, okay, now you're in the dark and you have a beam of light to understand this world. And that's what it's really been profound thinking back on that. Like most of that is hit since we left, just how kind of incredible that experience was for me.
Yeah, that's
because it was kind of an accidental decision. I mean,
right,
with headlamps, and somebody said, let's make other people work with the headlamps too.
Well, that's it, because we were enjoying it so much. We were like, why don't we give this experience to everyone?
Yeah. And there was this one day where we were doing some composing with the artist from Italy, and one of them had gone out for a smoking break and had left the front door unlocked. So this guy wandered in. The place wasn't actually open at the time, and it was so interesting to hear his perspective about that, because he said, well, do you mind if I come and say, oh no, but you should have this headlamp, like it makes a difference. And he was so eloquent about all of that, touching on all of the things that you're saying, Jason, and it was so fascinating to hear that from this, in this case, completely random, observer. Apparently he was looking for a gallery called the Swamp Gallery or something, which I'm not even sure really exists. I think maybe he was some sort of figment. Because we like, are you sure?
He was Emma Hamilton reincarnated.
Exactly.
Silhouette.
And the other thing, when we talked to Michael Taylor, he brought up reference to that Dada exhibition where they gave them the flashlights, which I had thought of on one of the days when we were first sort of, after we had decided about the headlamps, and almost more than because of that act of giving somebody the light source and telling them to look, but it was more because the one photo that I think exists of that exhibition, which I think I saw in a Philadelphia Museum of Art catalog, they had to use a flash, of course, so it illuminates the exhibition space, which the Dadaists had stapled all of these like coal bags to the ceiling, and they're hanging down in these like loopy, dirty, and everything just looks really grim and so incomplete, and it's such a great reminder of, to circle back to that idea of like, what does can the record communicate? I've always loved that photo because it's so not slick. It's so not like, it just looks like, what were you guys thinking like that? And sometimes when you walked into our space in Miami, you'd be like, what are we, what is this, But then you start looking around with that beam and you're like, oh, there's beauty everywhere. But trying to translate it conventionally is not going to happen, So good. It's really good. Yeah.
I had this sort of unformed idea because I saw an advertisement for the immersive Frida Kahlo show that's coming to Pittsburgh, close on the heels of immersive Van Gogh.
Yeah.
Have to race right out and skip them both because just. um,
I know.
but I was thinking about how there's a way in which it isn't like a precise parallel, but this is the inversion of that, because rather than encouraging abject passivity,
Right, exactly.
a
Yeah.
draining of all intellectual content and meaning,
Yeah.
and the ability to have any meaningful engagement with the physical object, this is actually inviting the viewer to create an experience with integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's fun. Also, like
Right.
there are other ways to have fun.
Exactly.
But there is something, I think, in that integrity which was so paramount to this piece, because like in these small captures, whether it was just in the mind's eye or through some mechanical event, like it held a moment that we were able to go back and to then like further explore. That just I don't know how else you create that opportunity without creating a space that really is about that exploration. But I think you said with authenticity, you know, with and a care for the deeper meanings, for the deeper implications, rather than just a superficial playground.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, Lizzie, I wish you could have seen. It was so beautiful to see Eloise, like 16-year-old Eloise, which, you know, as we all, from what I can remember of being 16, like, as our intern, I mean, she came in there and Jason wasn't with us yet, but Brandon was there and he's like playing the chair spokes or rungs on the chair, and Tom's like doing some stuff with the Casio, and I had this karaoke machine that I was getting these interesting feedbacks from, um, and the carpets piled up, uh, and suddenly I hear the sound, and I'm like, "What is that sound? It's really cool," but I don't think I'm doing it with the mics. And I turn around, and Eloise has her recorder out, and she's like playing her recorder. It was such a great moment for that kind of like, you know, like this is actually something that even a 16-year-old who maybe has concerns about being cool or not, we don't know, but you know, just jumps in, like literally like starts contributing to, and I just felt like that was such a happy moment. Like that's awesome. This with the same feeling that the children responding to you, Jason, or the children on the beach responding to Brandon under the dome.
Where there were definite invitations, but there was also very clear boundaries for like what our participation was going to be. You know, that it wasn't completely subject to a call and response, but was open to the possibility of a new variant sprouting out of some new step towards that invitation.
Yeah. One of the videographers, she said, she was like, I think it's so interesting how you constantly switch back and forth between being observers and participants in the compositions. And so like at any one moment, you know, someone who was just an observer might be participating, and then vice versa. And it was it's true. That was a really astute observation. Really not well, because it applies not only to the human components of the composition, but the you know, the material ones as well. It's really good. And I am sorry that you couldn't have been at the that incredible radio controlled Heli Smack Fest.
Wow.
Shakedown.
Looks amazing.
I mean,
so bizarre.
So bizarre, but such a welcoming community, like so extraordinarily like open to the idea of having this.
Oh, great! You were probably the most interesting thing that had happened to them since they found it.
Abby sent an email saying, you know, we were interested in getting the audio. The reply was, the audio is not the point, but all right.
Yeah, it was really great. Not about the audio, yeah,
right.
right.
It's not about the audio.
Like, okay, but
Okay.
Actually,
It's for us.
yeah, but actually, we still have to investigate all of that. We have so many
Yeah.
recordings that we still have
Yeah.
to work with from all of these different things that happened down there, and that's one of them. Because
yeah.
actually, the audio was extraordinary.
Yeah, it really
Very.
was.
But there were also these great moments where you had insect dragonflies flying around in the foreground, while in the background were the helicopters that looked like, you know,
And
mechanical.
then a true plane like
Yeah.
on the horizon, which totally destroyed the scale. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really fantastic.
And it did something weird with time too, is that real plane was in, you know, like
Yeah.
it slowed everything down, and this thing was with a hyper speed, and yeah, the insects, yeah.
And the insect felt, yeah, and you couldn't figure out, yeah, where's the insect, you know. It actually, it reminds me that I remember when I worked on that Roman Zigner show, I remember being at the dinner after the opening, and he was talking to his the pilot who flew his remote or his radio controlled helicopter, and he was saying the best moment would be if you could have one of these radio controlled helicopters inside a real helicopter, and there would be a fly inside of the radio controlled helicopter. And I was like, we've done it.
so true.
Because the dome held everything. The dome had it all. It was all there in the dome. Yeah. In the fly eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
It's nice. It's like that Lyle Lovett lyric, me upon my pony upon my boat.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's nice.
On the ocean.
On the ocean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which actually brings me to I have not tracked this down, but I saw in an encyclopedia somewhere that there were these boats that trains rode onto, and then the boat goes across, and then the train rides off of it. You know, so it's like a floating bit of
So smart.
railway, right? But like, wasn't a great, like, there's a great, they were great, you know, steel point engravings, you know, of this locomotive and a couple cars like going onto the boat, and then the rail folding up, and then the boat heading over. Yeah, it's nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for talking with us, Lizzie.
Oh my gosh, it's been such a treat. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for putting up with the difficult dog.
Oh no, not
Guest
the
appearance.
Oh, yeah, give her a little
Yeah. Give
rub
her a
for us.
treat.
You're
Now
excited
we-
again.
Yeah.
A dog biscuit the size of the state of Pennsylvania.
Yes, and I know Brandon sends his many regrets. Hopefully, it's going all right with the building inspectors.
Yeah, good luck. Woo.
I know, right? But we'll tell him about the greenhouse, and
Yeah.
and if you do locate anything from Joseph Wright of Derby about butterflies and mercury, let us know.
Mhm. Oh, I'm going to be looking that up.
I think that could be a really beautiful
Organizing. Yeah.
organizing principle for Sicily, is to like get to some different bottoms of that.
Fully. I mean, right. For Miami, we had Liszt talking about Chopin. Maybe for this, we have some imaginary thing talking about some other imaginary thing under the ground.
I like kind of starting with a quote, you know, like
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it's really nice. It's
especially if it's an inaccurate one, like even better, right? Like,
I know.
Maybe they found something I hadn't heard of.
but I love I
New
love
research.
the fact that
I love the uncertainty
you
about
agree
it.
with that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Right, and
Like, we need
actually,
a flashlight for that, for sure.
totally flashlight. Yeah, and I love the fact that the void is at the center of both of
Absolutely.
these quotes. Is really nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Or Mercury. Like, where is it? Where is it? We can't reach.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
hey, look, it's regrouped over there.
Right. Right. No, perfect. All right. Well, we won't take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice to meet you.
Really great to meet you, and such an honor to be able to meet with the 181. How exciting.
Thank you.
It's great. We can't wait to have you at the Frick Pittsburgh.
Excellent. We can't wait for that either. So until then.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going to hit leave meeting so I can end my recording.
All righty. Take care.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.